Also, welcome to Councillor Steve, who's just arrived. I hope you can see and hear us okay, Steve. If you want to come off mute or just say a quick hello, lovely to see you, or if you're not able to do that, technical issues, we all have them. Please just say hi in the chat. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start sharing my screen to sort of formally introduce the session and explain a little bit about how the session's going to run and what's going to be involved, because I could just sit here and I could deliver lots of information to you, but I think the thing that's most useful is to bring in your views, your experience, and use this session as a opportunity to explore some ideas and capture some reflections. So during the session, we're going to be using a tool called Menti, which I will introduce when we get there. But in a nutshell, it's an online sort of notice board. We can collaborate, we can see each other's notes. All of our comments and our interactions with it are anonymous, but it's a great way of kind of capturing information and reflection from the session. So I'll introduce that when we get there. Also, there'll be points during the session where I'm going to invite people in for a bit of a discussion, share your your thoughts, your ideas, your practice, what's been working well for you. All of the slides will be coming out to you following the session, so please don't worry about having to take lots of notes. And if in the sections of the session where I am delivering information, please feel free to put any questions in the chat or raise your hand if you can on Zoom and let me know if you've got something you want to ask, but I will check in as we go. So first of all, just to introduce who we are, Tommy and I are part of what's known as a good practice mentor team. We are a partnership of a number of organisations who came out of 7 years of lottery community funding. There was an English-wide programme called Aging Better, 14 areas across England. The lottery spent, I think, £87 million over 7 years. And it was all about how to test and learn and find ways of really finding, connecting and engaging people aged 50 plus to their community. That programme of work ended now 3 years ago. And for the first time ever, the lottery decided they didn't want everything we'd learnt just to be a pile of reports in a drawer or on a website. So they funded somebody from each of the areas to be a mentor, to share practical learning. We did that for a year, and then we got some additional funding to really hone on into a number of kind of areas of specific specialism. So this is who we are now in the Good Practice Mentor team. In South Yorkshire Housing Association, as well as my colleague Tommy, you might come across Jenny, Bluebell and Vicky. A lot of their expertise is around sort of co-production, so doing that, working together with people in the communities. I'm Jo. I'm based at Age UK Camden because they were my host organisation, and the funding has stayed with our hosts. And I'll tell you a bit about my area of expertise in a moment. We've also got Jessica, who's based at Leeds Older People's Forum, and a number of associate delivery partners who share specific areas of expertise based across the country. And although we've all got a host organisation, we work everywhere. So as Good Practice Mentors, over the last 3 years, we have been travelling all around the country, working with everyone from councils to public health teams to the NHS to charities, community groups and organisations. And really what we want to do is to save people having to reinvent a wheel. We can share with you the things, the hard won, often knowledge and expertise about what really works. So this is who we are. And just to add as well that although our initial funding from the lottery and our work focused on older people, people 50 plus, Not quite sure if I agree they're older people or not. But since we've been good practice mentors, we have been helping people to use our learning to reach people of all ages in their community. And we've carried on learning as we've gone. So I'll share some case studies during the session so you can see how people have adapted and used the information we're sharing. So a little bit about me and my area of expertise. So what happened in my Aging Better area in Camden is we funded a whole host of groups, activities, services and supports to really try and find and engage people age 50 plus in their community and bring them together. We worked with over 30 different delivery partners, and we commissioned our own services, such as a social prescribing service, which can give people targeted help and support to connect them to services, groups and activities. And what happened? This won't come as a surprise. The same people who go to everything, who feel really comfortable in the formal world of groups, activities, services, and support, went to more. They had a brilliant time. They suddenly had all of these things opening out to them. But although we thought, let's have something for everyone to engage our community, we still didn't meet the people who are never represented in formal services, groups, and activities. So to do something about this, I joined our Aging Better area as an outreach specialist and practitioner. And in a nutshell, my work is all about going to the people I want to meet and engage and proactively meeting and engaging them, listening and learning from them, and discovering new ways to connect them, bring people together for co-production, but ways that feel comfortable to them rather than necessarily kind of perpetuating the way we ordinarily do things. Outreach is fantastic because it's quick, it's immediate, and it's an agent of change. So lots of the people that I meet, I do things like street outreach, door knocking, going to the spaces and places where people are. Often you meet people who are pre-contemplation, so they're not thinking about how they can get involved, they're not looking for opportunities, and in worst case scenario, they just think, oh, none of that is for me, that's for those people, it's not something I do. So during the session, I'm going to be sharing some of that practice, but what I'm hoping is today is an opportunity for you to view things through a different approach and a different lens. And the session will really be focusing on finding and engaging the people who aren't our usual faces, the people we might call our seldom heard voices, or just the people who are not going to be represented in groups, activities, services, and support. And if you want to know more about my work, I've got an article in the Working with Older People journal, which puts this outreach approach really into context. So that will be linked on your slide. So what we'll be covering today, we'll be starting off thinking about whose voices are missing, who are the people that you'd really like to meet and reach, but they're not represented, they're not meeting you. Looking at ways of creating very informal stepping stones to engagement, because we know the people furthest away from accessing groups, activities, services support, getting involved in things like co-production. It's really hard. It's a big ask for someone to come from, I don't do those things, to walking through a door and meeting you. So we'll be exploring how to do that. We'll also be looking at how you can proactively find and engage and speak to the people that you want to meet using very kind of informal comms and conversational approaches, how you can use those approaches to really capture insight about what those people think and feel about what you're doing, what their barriers might be. And also we'll be looking in more detail about what are your community assets? What can help you to find and engage those people? So a bit of a whirlwind session covering lots of practical knowledge and insight. So here we are with Menti. And what I'd like to invite you to do is to either open a separate browser on your laptop or computer, or if you've got a mobile phone, you can open it on there. So I'm just going to share a link for you with you in the chat. And the website you want to go to is www.menti.com. And when you arrive, it's going to ask you for a passcode, and that's in the chat as well. That's 61812599. So I'll just give everyone a minute just to see if you can find your way there. And if anybody's having any problems finding or getting their way into Menti, just let me know. Just come off mute and give me a shout, and I'll see if I can give you a hand. And when you arrive in Menti, you should see something like this. So here again, we've got the website address and we have got the code. And brilliant, we're away already. So just as an opener to the session, this is just a quick capture of what interests you most. So is it about understanding and addressing barriers to engagement? Why people aren't coming and engaging? Is it about how and where to find the people you want to reach? Is it about how can I create those stepping stones for people who just go, oh, it's not for me? Is it about looking at comms and other techniques to speak to and engage the people not looking for you? Brilliant. Or is it about using informal conversational strategies to build rapport and capture insight? Brilliant. So I can see people are starting to have a vote. And again, if you're having any problems accessing Menti, just let us know and we can give you a hand. Fantastic. So I can see a few of you are in there now, and we've got quite a few votes already around comms and using that as a tool to speak to and engage the people not looking for you. So absolutely covering that in this session. Great. So, yeah, we've got another person there around stepping stones to engagement. So a mix of things, and we'll be covering all of them today. So thank you for that. And if you move to the next slide, this is a really good question and a place to start when you're doing engagement work, because it's really difficult to do one thing that's magically going to engage everybody. So whenever I'm doing my outreach practice and approach, I start by asking myself, who are the people missing? So who are the people that you really want to reach and engage that you're not reaching already? So this is your opportunity here. We can just kind of capture from those of you in the session who your seldom heard voices are. So please feel free to make a note and it will pop up on our board so we can all see and read it together. So who are your missing, who are your seldom heard voices? Brilliant. So we've got people living on a new housing estates. So that's a community that suddenly has to come into being, isn't it? So absolutely. Also people in social housing, anyone under age of 45, isolated people, elderly people. Yeah, this is great. Younger and middle-aged groups in your area, people who are working during the day, people with additional needs, people who've lived in the area for a long time and not interested in change. Yeah, absolutely. It works for me. Why would I want anything to be different? People who are isolated with health conditions and barriers. Those who don't understand the work of the council. Absolutely. They might just think you're about bins. So I've had lots of those conversations. People who don't use social media, new residents, vulnerable adults, people who just don't really know about what you're doing and about the possibilities. Because again, they might have a fixed perception about who you are and what you do. So again, asking this question is brilliant because immediately you can start to be strategic and think about, well, where do we start? Who do we want to focus our activity around? So brilliant. Thank you for that. And the next slide, this is just a word cloud. So I think you've got about 20, 30 characters, but thinking about it from the other side of the fence, from the people you want to reach, we've just identified them. What stops them from wanting to reach and engage with you? So why aren't they doing that? What's going through their minds? What could be some of their thinking, some of those barriers? Yep, absolutely. So we've got people might be shy or nervous around engaging. They could just be busy, got busy lives. They're not looking for things or thinking about things to do. They could have had a previous experience that was a bit negative. Maybe there's apathy. Maybe they don't care. They don't know we are available, so they don't know who you are or what you do. So yeah, any other uh, thinking that could stop people from engaging. We've got, yeah, understanding about what you do. Yeah, busy is a popular one. We can see in the word cloud that word's getting bigger because lots of people are sharing the same thought. Uh, yeah, confidence, feel have no impact. So this isn't going to make a difference. So it could be, I perceive what you're trying to do is it's just about ticking a box. It's not really about me having a voice in change. So I can't do anything about that. Yeah, apathy, nervous, knowing how to engage, being approachable. So yes, so it's once you start to do this, you very quickly realise that it's quite a complex situation for people. There isn't going to be one magic thing that can address all of these in one go for all of that very diverse group of people who are missing from our work. My last question to ask in this section on the next slide is, knowing the people are out there that we really want to meet and engage, what are our barriers? What stops us from being able to reach and engage them? So another word cloud here. So just what makes that difficult or just not possible or puts us off from doing it? So what stops us? And just while you're having a think around that, yeah, here we go. We've got maybe understanding about that community, how to do that engagement, how it needs to look and feel for people. Could be finance, yeah. So resources. Have you got people to be able to do this? Capacity, yes. And whenever I ask people this question, things around time and resources often come up. You've got understanding, we've got worries about reaction. Do you want to bother people? How are people going to respond? We can be nervous about doing this work, might not have the confidence to do it. Yeah, you're working counsellors, you've all got really busy jobs, so how can you do this? Scared of what they'd hear or what you might listen to, because once you start asking, you need to be prepared for things that could be challenging or might bring around change. So again, I think these three questions, the who are the people missing from my work, those people in particular, what is stopping them from engaging us, what could be their barriers, and then what are our barriers to engaging them? A brilliant place to start from always, because it just means you have something to go on and you can start to tailor your approach. So brilliant. Thank you very much for that. We'll come back to Menti later in the session. I'm just going to return to my slides. And I'm going to now share with you some of the common barriers and preconceptions I meet when I speak to people all across the country. Actually, it doesn't matter where I go, there's a common set of thinking behind the words "it's not for me," and why people don't engage with their council, with services support, or get involved in things like having their say, involved in consultation and co-production. So when I meet people in this capacity and they go, "Oh no," I ask them what it is about that. So this is kind of capturing that insight. So common preconceptions can be what people think about a place, activity, services and support, who and what it's for. So that great example about the council, oh, they just do bins, they do potholes, they don't do anything else. So I think, well, that's nothing to do with me. It could be an activity or a service or support. Often can be linked to ideas of vulnerability. So people think, oh, it's for those people who really need it, or the people who need it more than me. It could be you're trying to engage something like for older people, or people on low incomes, or people from diverse communities with lots of needs, and how you pitch and position and communicate that makes people think, well, it's for those people who need it more than me, but it's people fill in the gaps themselves. They always jump to the end. And I think, particularly around my initial work with older people, if you attach the words older people to anything, people never think that you're talking about them. They always think you're talking about always someone who's much older, someone who needs it more than me. And a great example is my dad. He's just turned 81. If you asked him, are you an older person? He would say, absolutely not. In his mind, older people, those words are connected to people who are really vulnerable, those people who need that kind of paternalistic intervention and support. So sometimes it's a place, could be a community centre. I think I know what goes on there. I think it's for families and children. It's not for me. So people have their preconceptions and they fill in those gaps. Also, another significant barrier around engaging people we don't normally meet is often what we're asking people to get involved in is just not part of their life experience. So it could be that you're wanting people to say to get involved in a survey, come to a focus group or a meeting or an activity. And for that person, it's not something that they've ever done. So they can't imagine themselves in that setting, and they might fill in the gaps about who's going to be there. Oh, it's for those people, it's not for me. Or it could just be in somebody's cultural experience, what you're offering doesn't resonate, doesn't mean anything, and they don't know who and what it's for. We talked a little bit about people needing to self-identify as vulnerable. So if something is pitched towards people with low incomes, then people go, oh, well, maybe I don't want to be identified in that way. If you've got words like loneliness and isolation, I don't want to be perceived as lonely or isolated. So if what you're trying to engage people about has this link to vulnerability, then this can be a barrier. Other ones, I'm sure you've all come across, meeting people who are distrustful and suspicious of formal institutions like the council. I don't want to share my business. I don't want them to know about me. I don't do those things. I don't interact. And also a lot in my work, I meet people who are disconnected from what's going on, don't take up services support, aren't accessing those. And often people kind of develop a real apathy. It's just the way it is. Nothing can change. So people's expectations about how they can be involved, if their voice matters, how they can make a change really, really diminishes. And people go, oh, well, there's no point. It's not going to happen. You mentioned in your barriers about that negative previous experience. So maybe I've tried to do something in the past and I've just not felt welcomed. So there's no point. I'm not going to do that again. And there are the practical barriers. So going back to this idea of lots of digital communication, surveys, paper-based. Maybe you're someone with literacy issues, and there are so many people with literacy issues out in our community, and it's often hidden. Could be language barriers, could be health, mobility, all kinds of practical barriers can get in the way as well. Um, Also, this is really important, I think, is a barrier and something I wasn't aware of until I started to engage the people who are outside of kind of all of our formal services and supports. And this is about asking people to take a risk. So coming to speak to you, making a phone call, going along to something, all of that has got an ask attached, and people worry about making or taking a risk. So a risk can be a preconception or a set of expectations about what's expected of me and what's going to happen. So maybe you're asking people to come along to some kind of event to share their views about something. Immediately, I'm going to have to talk to somebody. Is this going to be really formal? People worry about needing to share personal information and the consequences of this, being identified as that vulnerable person who needs help, or even just kind of asking or inquiring is perceived as in some way this I'm making a commitment to do something and I'm not quite sure. And the social risk and ask can never be underestimated because so many people are anxious about these social environments. And often we invite people to come to places to come and chat, to come and make friends, come and meet your neighbours, come and socialise, without realising that for a lot of people, just that language itself becomes a flag, and people think, oh, I'm going to go, I'm going to have to talk to somebody, I'm not going. So, this idea of risk is a significant barrier too. And I think as a result of all this common preconception, so I don't know about what you do, but I'm filling in the gaps myself. It's not for me. That's always going to be for somebody else. We've got lots of people out in the community who are not looking for us at all. We're not on their radar. They're not considering getting involved in things, accessing services or support, and they're not looking for opportunities. So they're not going, oh, I wonder how I could have my say and influence change. So if I'm not looking for things, I'm not thinking about you, I'm not going to be proactive about seeking out information. So I'm not going to be following your Twitter feed, your social media. I'm not going to be looking at your website. But also, I don't read all of those notice boards, the ones in the doctor's surgery, the ones on the in the library, because none of that is for me. That's for those people who do those things. So, it's not something for me. Um, and all of this kind of thinking, these preconceptions and barriers, are often then just reinforced and exacerbated by that digital divide. So, can't access your information because I'm not digitally engaged, or the information we do provide doesn't really say anything. It looks really beautiful, got lots of logos, but it doesn't answer my questions, and I don't know what it is and what's involved. And what we find is often the language, the images, and the comms we use to promote those opportunities just reinforce those negative perceptions about who and what it's for. And people go, oh, no, it's not for me. So I'd like to open this out. This is a piece of my own comms from back in the day. I decided I was going to have a sort of a drop-in opportunity in a pub in an area of Camden where there's lots of community centres, lots of groups, activities, things going on, but the people I want to meet and engage aren't going to any of those. But I know there's this pub out in Kentish Town where lots of the local people I want to meet go to. So I think, great, I'm going to create this opportunity there and invite people to come and meet me. So this was my comms. So looking at this, what does it tell you? What are your preconceptions about who and what this is for? and who's going to be there. So anyone got any ideas? Come off mute and just share your thoughts. Looking at this, who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Older people.
Older people.
Yep.
Old people.
Yep. And my
I
offer
don't think Ryan would be
is
up at
for
that
people
time
aged
anyway.
50
So,
plus.
um,
So if I'm now in my early 50s, looking at
well, I'll
this,
tell you what.
probably go, oh
If
no,
we,
it's for those
I'll
much
say
older people.
for
So
you.
yeah, older
Sorry,
people.
I'll say to
Any other
Brian,
thoughts
pick you up
about
at
what's going to happen,
9:30.
what's expected to
If
do?
there's any issues or changes, I'll give you a ring.
Sitting right opposite somebody and having to talk,
Have
being forced to sit opposite somebody and engage in
Yeah.
conversation.
yes, absolutely. So there's an
Um,
expectation there, isn't there, around this
Oh, I was wondering, was
class
it? Yeah, I'm
and
missing,
who's going to be
missing
there.
this bit at work.
Yeah.
But,
And any thoughts from anyone else who about what might happen?
Looks very middle class and genteel.
It does look middle class, doesn't it? So it does look, they're very nice. Those two people, lovely people, but they might.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice little cups, etc., etc. I always drink
yeah,
that with mine myself.
It almost looks like
yeah.
elderly speed dating.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Yeah,
some,
I was going to say some of our residents would think
Yeah,
it was
yeah, I
very
do as
posh,
well.
too posh for them.
yes. So immediately, just this
No, it's
image, the
expensive.
sort of
You
thing
know,
we think about at the drop of, we go, oh well, they look nice. It's a coffee morning, they're drinking coffee. Let's have
Mm,
that picture on there. And then we don't think twice about it. I know I didn't. And then this is what happens. This is what
mm,
I heard when I took this out. So, first problem, coffee morning.
mm.
What does it even mean? Everyone will have their own preconception about who goes to coffee mornings
Yeah,
and what happens. It doesn't describe what's happening. So for me, I'd speak to men and they go, oh, full of gossiping women, I'm not going there. Someone would say, coffee mornings are for middle class people. Or I would
yeah,
meet individuals where the words coffee morning meant nothing within their culture because it's not something they're familiar with. I've got my social ask because I want people to come to this and to meet friends and socialise. So I've put it on my comms. And then people go, oh, I'm going to have to talk to somebody. I'm going to sit opposite someone. I'm going to be under this pressure to do this. So it can trigger anxiety. You've all talked about the issue with the image, and absolutely, if the people on the image don't look like you or represent you, you can think it triggers that preconception about this is for someone else, not for me. The other problem is I've got a lack of information here. I have thought everyone knows where this pub is. I'm not even going to put the full address in because they all know. And what you find out as well is if you're inviting somebody to something, it's not a place they go to, so it's not on their radar. So people don't know where it is. They don't know what to expect. What am I going to do there? How long am I there? If I want more information, I've got to go to a website. If I'm someone not really looking, I'm quite passive. Am I realistically going to take that extra step to try and find out the details? No, I'm not. I'm just not going to go. And then also as well here, I've done the classic. I have got my strap line where I've communicated sort of the strategic and big purpose of our funding. So Aging Better in Camden is funded by the Lottery Community Fund to
yeah.
support isolated and lonely older people in the borough of Camden. I approach people with this and they go, do you think I look old? Do you think I look isolated? Engagement over. So immediately you become aware of how you pitch and
Mm.
position your offer can reinforce all of this thinking. So in this session, I'm going to be sharing with you a completely different approach to being able to put comms together. So great, thank you for your feedback about that. So before I go on to start to look at some of the solutions to this, just to throw it open about how do we address barriers to engagement already? Is anybody doing something that you find really works, or what's your experience? Anything you'd like to share?
I think it's becoming a known person. I think it's wherever it is that you're going to or whoever you're trying to engage, I think it's becoming known there. The face has got to become familiar. I'm trying to engage with a certain group of people, and it takes more than one visit for them to trust you and begin to recognise you as somebody that they could approach.
Yeah,
That's that personal connection, isn't it? It's the personal connection there that's having building the trust. Yeah.
I haven't got any examples of what we're doing well, but just one of the things I really want to explore this morning is how we reach all age groups, because if we do any work engagement in the evening, then people say they're not available. If we do it during the day, people are at work. If we do it at the weekends, they've got something better to do, obviously. So it's how you plan how to reach all age groups or vulnerabilities as much as you can, because whichever one we go for, we're always told it's the wrong one.
Yep, I think that's a really good question, Helen, and we can definitely explore that in this session. But you know, I think even going back to the
Sorry.
The mentee, no, it's great, Helen. I'm just reflecting from what you said, but going back to that initial kind of mentee about who are the people missing, it's so diverse, and I think sometimes we put ourselves under pressure to go, let's come up with a magic activity, the magic offer, and everyone will come. And maybe one of the things is sort of thinking maybe we need to do different things and have a range of approaches to engage people at different times and in different ways, but we'll explore that. But thank you, Helen and Candice. Anybody else got anything that they wanted to share around addressing barriers to engagement?
Some of the
just going to
council.
say that.
Oh, sorry. Go, John.
I was just going to say we've tried 3 times running community conversations and getting people to come along and meet councillors, etc. And all we get is the usual suspects. It's if you start believing what you're hearing, it's pretty misleading.
Yeah, that's fine, and I have to say that's a really common situation, John, because we just keep meeting and hearing from the same people over and over again, and then we ask those people what they want, and it's always more of the same. So we just keep perpetuating things. So absolutely, being able to capture insight and voices from those other people can start to really change things and give you ways in. So that's brilliant. Thank you, John. And Lucy.
So there's a couple of things. A few councils have talked about putting on surgeries where the councillors sit in a room and people go to see them. From my experience, they're not, maybe it's the word surgery, or a councillor can sit in a room for 2 hours and nobody turns up, or it's the same one person with, and it's often the same conversations about speeding, parking, and it's often, again, it's that lack of understanding of the council can actually support and facilitate more than just part. Those things are important. I it's not knocking that that's not important, but it's people often go to councillors with problems rather than thinking of the bigger picture of actually what can we do as a community to make things good, as opposed to just hitting the councillors with we need another poo bin here, or the parking outside the school is terrible, which it's, and sometimes again it's that lack of understanding of what the council do. So I do think that is a huge barrier.
Yeah, no, that's great, Lucy, and I think you're right. I think maybe the idea of the surgery session, people are going to fill in their own gaps about what that means, and it's going, oh, I can go to my counsellor with my complaints. So again, it's people filling in the gap, their preconception about what's going to happen. So that could be interesting to explore. If anybody else has got anything else you want to contribute, now is the moment, or I will move on to our next bit, which is starting to look at practical solutions.
I wanted to come in, please.
Yes, of course, Jan.
We're dealing, well, so far, a lot of you and others are dealing with people who think they have problems. We aren't looking at the aspect of volunteering. Some of the people that I'm talking to, they want to be able to help in the community. They've got interest in the community, and it's that they want to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely, Jan. And I think when we come to look at comms, again, people have preconceptions and barriers around the word volunteering, about what it involves, who and what volunteers. Going back to my lovely dad, if you ask him who volunteers, he'll say do-gooders. He would help anybody with anything if you ask him to help. If you ask him to volunteer, he's not going to do it. So again, we can explore that through the comms of how can you communicate, how people can get involved, how people can have a say, can help out, but it's communicating that in a slightly different way. So that was really useful. Thank you, Jan, for sharing that. So practical strategies. So Lucy, going now to your counsellors who we're going to be available in a space so people can come and meet us. So I call these informal stepping stones. So going back to this idea of people who've never done things, people who wouldn't necessarily go to surgery, a clinic, which sounds there's a social ask that I'm going to have to sit down and engage with somebody who might be quite formal, someone who's going to kind of be this official person and me, all of those things. For people who don't feel comfortable doing that, it's not part of their world. You need to create these much less informal ways, easy to take ways for people to start that engagement journey with you. So going back again to my kind of initial work with Aging Better in Camden, doing street outreach, I was constantly meeting and engaging men out on the streets, really happy to chat to me, but never going to go to any of the groups or activities I was there trying to tell people about, or, services, support, all of those things, because I've got real preconceptions and barriers. But one of the big preconceptions and barriers was around, particularly for not just men, but for a lot of people, about the space itself and about how things are delivered and the world of the formal. So later on this session, I'll be sharing with you what we call our SOSAR, which is using street outreach as a tool to meet people, but to catch insight. And basically, as part of this research, I went and spoke to people, men out on the streets, in pubs, in sheltered housing. And instead of asking them the questions about what groups, activities, services and support would you like, because they'd say, I don't want any, I don't do any of that, I had to find another way in to ask the questions. So the approach was more about asking really open questions to understand how men were spending their time, what social connection needed to look and feel like for them to be something that they wanted to engage with. So here we've got this lovely man on the top of my slide talking about the community centre. So I'm not really interested in what goes on there. There's not many men. I'm not interested in what they do. This man lived around the corner from his community centre and he'd never set foot in it. He'd just got in his head what goes on there, who it's for. So as part of kind of asking men around this, it was then trying to move things forward about how things needed to look and feel. So because lots of men and lots of people have preconceptions about spaces like a community centre, maybe like a council office, maybe going to the offices of a charity or somewhere like that, men said, I'll go to somewhere neutral, so somewhere that doesn't have that connection, that preconception attached. So if you do something in a place where anyone could go, it's not a special place for special people, I'll come. So I'd come to something in a cafe, I'd come to something in a park, I'd come to something in the library, I could come to something in a pub. So immediately you've got a way in there and you're thinking, the people I really want to engage, where are they in the community? Where do they go? That's where I need to go and do my engagement event. in the place and space where they feel comfortable to go. We've got this here as well. It needs to be local. I need to go to where you are. And also, men said, you know, well, I'm not going to anything that's too formal or advertised too formally, because it signals to me that this is about somebody organising me or trying to do something to me. So lots of men said, you know, I'm not going to a men's club or a group. And that could extend to the word meeting. I don't go to a meeting. I don't go to a committee. I don't go to a surgery because it's not a me place. Also, this idea of having autonomy and control, really important for a stepping stone. So if you've got your event, say something's happening and your counsellors are there, people need to be able to decide when they arrive, what they're going to do, are they going to talk to somebody or not. They've got all of the agency and control. So this kind of drop-in, very informal type events are really good. And if you want to know more about the world of men and their barriers and how social connection and things need to look and feel, there's the learning report from that research. So you can link to that on the slide. So what does it mean in practice if I'm trying to do something like this? Hi, Candice, I can see your hand.
Yes, sorry to interrupt, Joe, but I just wondered, going back to the previous slide, you said that rather than saying what would you like in your area, that you'd go in with open questions. So I just wondered if you had examples of some of the open questions that you might ask.
I do, and we've got them coming up in this.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's brilliant. You're already wearing, but yes. So I've got a section coming up around asking the questions differently and capturing insight. So filling in the bits that we don't know. So that's brilliant.
Sorry, jumping the gun.
No, not at all. No, that's really great. So for me, the stepping stone was about creating a very informal opportunity to make it easy for people to come and meet and engage with you. So here's an example. I've got a pop-up gazebo in the middle of the housing estate where we're not meeting or engaging anybody. So people can walk past, they can come, they can, you know, make their own cup of tea if they want to. There's information they can pick up. They can speak to somebody if they want to or not. People have all the agency and control. And the thing that makes it really work is just keep it simple. So often we'll think things like, oh, let's have a big information day where people can come and meet lots of services and support. Too overwhelming, too formal. Have a simpler opportunity, a place where people could just drop in and pick up information. So you're not talking about the social hours, the social expectation. You're not even saying come and talk to a counsellor, but you could have your counsellors there and they could engage with people in a much less formal way. And also, instead of it being about tell me your problems, in these opportunities, you've got ways of capturing insight about how things might need to look and feel for people, what might help people to do things. So again, we'll come to that. Sometimes a simple hook or motivation to visit can work wonders, because sometimes people just need a reason to talk themselves into coming. So often it's been for me things like, you know, come and get a cup of tea or a bit of cake or some information. People have come miles to see me to pick up a free radiator key. It could just be a bookmark. It could be anything. It's the tiniest of things, but some people will come because they go, oh yeah, I want to go and find out what's going on. Someone will come because they think, oh, that information, I want to see what's going on. Someone might come because for your hook, for your radiator key, that might be quite useful. Or it could be the hook is a place, an opportunity to come and have a look around the council building. For someone who's never been, I can go in, I can go and see it without having to make a commitment to take part in a meeting or doing anything formal. So it's just providing that opportunity. Give people that sense of autonomy and a range of options. So I can have a cup of tea, I can talk to somebody or not. It's going on for a few hours. I can come along at any time. I can just pop by and drop in. And if you want people to do things, have it so that people can join in spontaneously. So often at pop-up events, capturing that information about, you know, what people might do already in the local area. What is good? You can do that informally. Also, you can ask people about things that they miss in their community, what would help them to do the things they want to. So you can use all of these strategies in very informal ways, and we'll come to this. So again, if you're doing the pop-up, follow through with the informality. No rows of chairs, no somebody doing a talk or a speech. It just needs to be very, very casual and informal. If possible, have your tea or coffee or whatever and let people help themselves, because then it moves away this idea of the power balance of someone being in charge and us coming along. So it's a more equal relationship, and that just makes it easy for people as well. I think in housing settings or in areas where you've got an asset like a community centre and people don't come along, and maybe you've got politics between residents or issues going on, the pop-up event can be a great way of just resetting all of that, reintroducing that space to everybody and who and what it's for and what goes on there. This idea of just coming to have a look round is a brilliant stepping stone, because once people find themselves in that environment, they can imagine themselves there, and then you can start to build on that about how and what they might like to do in that space. So the stepping stone is the simple opportunity for somebody to come. So yeah, it's this idea of keeping it informal. So if you're thinking about doing this stepping stone, again, these are some really useful questions that I always ask myself. So a stepping stone could be an entirely new opportunity, or maybe you have got something that's running regularly and you're thinking, I'd like to be able to introduce new people to this or meet new people. The questions to ask yourself are, what's fixed about what I'm doing, and what is flexible about how people can participate and engage? So a really good example, I did this a few evenings ago with a whole host of community organisations, and somebody was running sort of a community choir for people from the Ukrainian community, but open to everybody. The fixed thing was the date and the time. So it's an evening every week. It's always in the same place. What's flexible is people don't have to sing. They can just come and have a listen. They can watch. They can have it's not just Ukrainian music. People can bring their own things. So actually for someone, they don't have to be able to sing. You don't have to be a brilliant singer to go. Anyone can come. So it's thinking about what are the flexible bits, and it's often the flexibility that we don't communicate to people. We know that, but people fill in the gaps, a bit like the choir. I can't sing, I don't know, I can't speak Ukrainian, I can't go. So I've just closed that down. But if I know about what's flexible, it anticipates and it answers a lot of my questions. So if we could go back to our mentee and maybe kind of pick one thing in particular where you're thinking we'd really like to engage people around that, meet people, and we'll just take a few minutes to explore what is fixed about that offer, but what is the flexibility within it. So I'll just go back to our mentee tool. So exactly the same code again. So what is fixed about what you're doing? So it could be for you, Lucy, the idea of your surgeries with your counsellors. So it could be when it is. Maybe one of the flexible things could be where it could be. So it's just there. So we'll start with what is fixed about what your offer is for the people you want to find and engage. Yep. So for somebody, it is the place, it is the venue. So that is fixed. Yep. Date and time. Yep. So when it is and where it is. Could be other things like, do people have to let you know in advance? Is that a fix, or is the flexibility they can just turn up on the day? So it's really kind of thinking about that. And do people have to sign in? Do you have to take people's contact details? It's all of those things about what are the things that happen. So on the housing estate, we've got a separate mini community. So that's a fixed thing. Sounds like that there might be a bit of perhaps a division there of different communities in that place. But it's real kind of focusing in on what are the things that really have to happen for this. So we talked about, do people need to let you know in advance? It could be who's going to be there, who holds the event. That could be a fixed thing. And again, it's difficult in this moment to do this because it helps when you're about to do something to go, what's here that's fixed? What are the flexible things? So I can see you thinking around that. So I'll just toggle on to the next slide because this might be easier. So what are the flexibilities for the people who you want to meet and engage for them to come? So could be where it is, could they drop in? Do they have to let you know in advance? Do they have to commit to anything? So it's, yeah, so great. So the time could be flexible as well. So brilliant. Yeah, date. Other things is, do you have to collect information about people? Do people have to share that with you or not? So it could be fixed, it could be flexible. The commitments every week might not be necessarily. Yep, can they bring children? Brilliant. So already once you start to do this, you begin to anticipate what people want to know to eliminate some of those preconceptions. Do I need a focal point? Yep. So am I coming for a specific purpose? Do they have to pay? Yeah, absolutely. So maybe it's free. Yep, can drop in throughout the day. Consider different counsellors attending throughout the event. And also that might be less overwhelming for people to come in and just, there'd be a whole group of counsellors and just you, but maybe you have people who come in and out. So refreshments as well. So brilliant. Yeah. So just those questions, can't stay for the whole session. Yeah. So that agency and control for people. So this is about how to make it easy, and thinking about the flexible thing gives you that license to go, well, maybe it needs to be a bit different to build that in. So my next question here is thinking now about communicating that offer. How and where do we use our comms? So we've got our opportunity. How are we sharing that with people? So it could be the type of comms you're producing, how you're sharing that. So leaflet drops, yeah. Any other ways that we are sharing that offer? Notice boards, yeah. Facebook, yep. So digital engagement, we're all doing that now. Social media, so not just Facebook, so using that more widely. Parish magazine, yeah, brilliant. Word of mouth, amazing word of mouth, because people, as well as telling someone about it, will often do the outreach worker's job of doing that nudge and say, oh, it's really informal. Oh, yeah, I go along. It's great. You should come. So people do that. You go to village events, so where people are, great way of approaching and engaging people, and also taking your information out to where people are. So it could be towns, in town, it could be shops, where people move around in your community. Yeah, so that's great. So thank you for sharing that. What I'm going to do now is just for the next bit, I'm going to share with you now different ways of talking about and sharing your offer. So this idea of using comms differently as a tool to really speak to, engage and resonate with the people that you want to meet. And then we'll take a quick break after that. So if you're like me, you're getting ready for another cup of tea, it's on the way. So here we go. Brilliant. So yeah, so I consider this of using my comms as a tool to really address some of those barriers and preconceptions to engagement. And my caveat for this is the kind of comms that I would produce to do this as my tool are going to look very different to kind of our usual sort of marketing materials. And it's not about reinventing a wheel or changing the marketing and materials that you're already doing, because often they do a brilliant job of communicating to people you already know, to your stakeholders, sometimes acknowledging a funder or other things that are going on. They do so many jobs. This is about producing something extra, something other, as a tool for this engagement work. So we're going to call this outreach friendly comms. So this is your comms that are going to speak to help you to reach and engage the people that you're not reaching and engaging at the moment. So these are my top tips, and then I'm going to show you lots of examples. So the things that I've learned is the substance is more important than the style. So it's not about bright colours, it's not about your lovely branding, it's not glossy, doesn't need to be printed professionally, it can just come off on a photocopier or a printer. So if it looks quite informal, if it's it's going to have different content, it's what's in your comms is going to do your addressing barriers. Also as well, it's not about just producing one version of this. So going back to the people that we want to meet and engage, I might produce something as a tool because I'm thinking, I really want to find and engage people in this specific area of this specific community. Maybe at another time I'm wanting to target teenagers. So I'm going to adapt this as a tool to engage specific groups. So it's a fluid thing as well. It's going to keep changing. As I've mentioned, I think if your outreach friendly comms looks too glossy and slick, it becomes a barrier because it looks too formal, and people think, oh, this, it feels too formal, it feels too glossy. The opportunity, what you're trying to share with people, is more important than your branding. So this is the point where your marketing teams are going to go, oh my goodness. But again, I'm producing something different and other. It's not marketing material, it's outreach friendly comms. And what I always do, a bit like that flyer for the coffee morning, if I'm producing something now, I take it out with me and I immediately get feedback from real people. And they'll tell you immediately what they don't like, or they'll ask you questions. So it means it becomes more effective the more responsive it is. So if I've got something, I'll just take it out on the street and approach people and say, oh, would you mind just, sorry to bother you, I'm not fundraising, I'm not saying anything, can I just share this with you? Really interested just to see what people think. And you get that automatic feedback, and then what you need to change. So what does it look like in practice? So this is an example of a piece of outreach friendly comms for a stepping stone event I did with Corsham Town Council and their local library. So the library is fantastic. It's on the outskirts of town and it's surrounded by quite a big housing estate, lots of new and modern housing. So there isn't necessarily this community. They know in the library they are not meeting a lot of those people because they're not looking for them, and maybe they've just never been to a library, or they've got an idea about what's going on. So this is their stepping stone. Really simple. It's an invitation to drop in for free tea or coffee at the library. Straight away, you'll see there's no people on here. There's a picture of the place where you're asking people to come. And immediately that removes that barrier about who's going to be there and what it's for. And the picture of the place is practical. So if it's somewhere I've never been to, it provides reassurance. It means it's accessible, perhaps for people with literacy issues, ESOL speakers. Lots of ESOL speakers have fed back that they really like the picture of the place. It's something people feel really comfortable with. Someone might have neurodiversity, all kinds of barriers and issues. This just removes lots of them without people having to ask or make you aware of those barriers. It's focused on an invitation. We have lots of flyers, don't we, saying such and such is happening. An invitation suddenly feels much more personal and it stands out from the crowd. Also, it's jargon free. There's no coffee morning here. It's an invitation to drop in for a free tea or coffee. Drop in any time between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. So very informal. Agency and control. People can decide when they come, how long they stay for. And then a descriptor of what's going to happen. So enjoy a coffee and free Wi-Fi, browse the books and newspapers, pick up information about what's happening in your local library. Everyone is welcome. There's no social expectation. I'm not being asked to come and talk to somebody or chat or any of those things. I'm going to come into the space and probably I'm going to end up speaking to somebody, but in a way that feels really natural. It's not about somebody wanting to do something to. And also when I meet people and I'm sharing something with them, the question they always ask me is, what is it like? By that they mean, what is going to be the social environment? And instead of have fun, make friends, socialize, I now talk about the atmosphere. I say it's really informal, it's really easygoing, it's really relaxed. And that sends a signal out saying, this is very easy for me. There isn't this social expectation. I'm going to have to talk to somebody, or it's going to be a meeting. It's going to be something not for me. So those little tweaks of language can really make a difference. In terms of the information to include, going back to your what's fixed, what's flexible, once you start digging into what is the flexible, then you understand there are things that we could share with people to remove barriers. And also I say to myself, what do people need to know without needing to pick up a phone or visit a website? Because some people aren't going to do that and they're not going to come. So the key things I've found for me are things like a map. Really practical. Where is it? Can I park my car? What is the bus route? Can I just drop in on the day? So it's thinking about, what do people need to know? How can I provide that so I can remove those barriers? So straight away, this is the kind of information we don't include on our marketing thing, which tends to be kind of, a bit more shiny, but not so much information about what to expect, what's possible for me, and often signpost people to more information. So in practice, this is printed on A4 because it needs to be big, removes lots of barriers. Page 1 has got this on one side, and on the back, you've got the map and you've got the information. So there's enough here for somebody to come and make it easy for them to join you. And again, if you're thinking about a mission statement, you need to think about not communicating the bigger mission statement, but about what this is for. So, this is an opportunity for people to come and, look in the library, pick up information. So it's making it really immediate. So lots of examples to share. Warm winter hubs, because they're everywhere at the moment. This is a warm winter space in Lewisham. This is their original comms on the left. It's an A5 flyer. No pictures of people, so great big tick there. It's pictures of coffee mugs. But the problem with this is, well, there's a few. Meeting a man, he said to me, "Jo, if I go to a cafe, they don't need to tell me it's got heating. I already know. Why are they telling me it's got heating?" By calling it a warm winter space, we're saying this is this special place for special people, for vulnerable people, the people who need help. So it's just an example of how somebody reads that and goes, oh, it's for those people. It's not for everyone. And actually it is for everyone. We have got here a list of things going on in that space because we think, include everything, so there's something for everybody. And the reverse happens and people latch on to one thing and it triggers those preconceptions. I'm seeing the word board games, oh, it's for children. Seeing the word knitting, oh, it's going to be full of older women. So this idea of, instead of listing everything, dial it back. And on the right, this is the version of the outreach friendly comms that we put up in the local community, but we also did some street outreach around it, and I'll be coming on to that later. So it's the invitation to drop in for a free coffee. Friday afternoons, drop in anytime between 2 and 5 p.m. for free coffee, biscuits and Wi-Fi. Bring your book, newspaper, phone or laptop. Enjoy a coffee in our pop-up cafe. So pop-up cafe is the alternative to the winter warmer drop-in. A cafe is that neutral space, a place where anyone would feel welcome to go. Meet other local people, pick up useful information about what's happening. Everyone is welcome. Picture of the place. We've got a map of where it is. So if you compare the two things, ask yourself with the first one, who and what it's for, what's going to happen. The second one is much more neutral, but it's really, really clear so that people don't have this expectation about what it's for. This could be for anyone, and it is for anyone. Some more examples here. This was a seated exercise session happening in a library in Edmonton. It's free, it's brilliant, but they've got a tiny group of people who were going. So there's the same people they already knew. But in Edmonton, around this library, you've got lots of people with low incomes, with health inequalities. We know that because of the demographics. They're the people that they really wanted to meet and engage. So this is the outreach friendly version of comms. So it's very clear about where and when it is. We've got a nice picture, we've got a map, you know where you're going. And then also it explains what the activity is, because we always think people know. People don't know, they fill in the gaps. So this is yoga. Ask people who've never been to yoga and they'll go, oh, it's for those really young, stretchy people. I can't possibly do that. So we've got descriptor. Yoga is a gentle form of stretching exercise. I know what it is. On their original comms, they talked about falls prevention, elderly people. And again, someone sees that and they go, oh, that's not for me. It's for those really vulnerable people, the people who are falling down. I think I know who's going to be there. I don't need that yet. It's for people who need it more than me. So instead of talking about the deficit, it talks about the benefit. It's great for improving flexibility and balance, because that could be a motivation for anybody. It can apply to anybody. Suitable for all levels of fitness. No special equipment required. No need to pre-book. Just come on the day. That's all the things that are flexible, and it's communicated. We have also got some really handy tear off telephone slips, because you're putting this up in places where people might see it. People don't always have a pen and paper handy. People can't always take a photograph with a mobile phone, but I can tear off that bit of paper and I can take it with me. So it's all designed to make it easy for people. Another example, a similar scenario, this was in Newcastle, an organisation who'd got some money from the Levelling Up People and Place agenda from the previous government. So this was about creating opportunities for people in an area of Newcastle, lots of diversity of community, but again, the funding's gone there because you've got lots of people on low incomes, low engagement, health inequalities. On the left is their original comms. It's an A5 flyer. It is great for communicating with referral partners and for people who already go along to things. But looking at it objectively, it says over 50s, but the language talks a lot about the vulnerability. It talks about mobility and AIDS and falls prevention. We've got an image of women there on the flyer. So people fill in the gaps, and you're probably not going to get somebody in their 50s going. You're going to be attracting people perhaps who are much older, people who identify as somebody with a vulnerability. So on the right, this is the outreach friendly version, because this activity is for anybody in that community. So it's now an invitation again. Dance through the decades. What is it? An informal and relaxed dance class suitable for everyone, beginners included. Learn how to dance, improve your fitness and enjoy great music. It just sounds really positive. There's nothing there that says this is for vulnerable people. It's for anybody. So where and when is it? Picture of the place. We have got a map. So it's just repositioning that opportunity differently. Another example here, this is a community drop-in where people can go, they can pick up information about everything from volunteering to mental health, to funding, to activities, to leisure. So I guess in some ways this might be similar to the sort of thing a council might want to do, where they just want to be able to let people know about all the things that they do or things people can do. Their original comms is basically, it's a service leaflet. So it includes absolutely everything going on, but then they've communicated what they're going to offer to people. So come and have a one-to-one conversation for up to 30 minutes. So they've thought, we can have a conversation with people up to 30 minutes. Let's put it on here. Or you could join a group table for games, activities, and chat over a nice cuppa. And the issue then again is, this feels like quite a commitment to go. Someone's going to talk to me for 30 minutes. I've got preconceptions. Maybe I don't want to do a game or a craft activity. Maybe I think I know who that's for. It's not for me. And then there's an overwhelming amount of information. So the stepping stone is to encourage people to come and drop in, because they'll come in and all those things are going on anyway, and they might get involved or not. They've got the agency or control. Good old invitation, drop in for a free coffee every Thursday. Drop in any time between 2 and 4 for a free coffee. Pick up information about what's happening locally for Lewisham residents 18 plus. So this could be the kind of opportunity your councillors might want to extend, because I'm just coming to find out, and the councillors just happen to be there. But it's not about this being a place to come and complain, it's a place to come and find out. So it talks about options for leisure, making the most of your time, talks about who's going to be there, some names of people you might meet, and again you've got a map and the practical information, and everyone's welcome. So it's a very different proposition to the service comms, which is communicating everything that's going on, all the services they provide, and again great for referral partners, people you know, but not for people who've never been to anything like this. You need to make it easy. So your comms becomes that stepping stone. One last example here, the world of men, older men, one of my areas of expertise as an outreach worker. So the original comms here was for a men's sporting reminiscence group. It takes place in a cricket club, brilliant location, but their original comms talked about vulnerability. So it talked about loneliness, isolation, it talked about memory loss, all of those things, which anyone can go, so you're going to meet those people. But they weren't meeting the people in the local community. Just along the road from the cricket club, there's lots of betting shops. There's a big high street. Lots of people are milling around during the day, lots of men they want to meet. So it's about repositioning the offer. It's now not a sporting men's reminiscence group. It's an invitation for men to talk sport. I know what that is. I know what's expected. Drop in and join us, free refreshments, and an opportunity to talk any and all sports with other local men aged 50 plus. The vulnerability has gone. This is a sporting location where I can go and talk sport. I don't have to identify as vulnerable. And my last example was around signposting comms. So later on in the session, I'll be introducing you to some kind of outreach strategies. So things like street outreach and door knocking, ways of doing that. But again, when I meet people, and I often meet people who are not engaging with anything, never contacted their council. I've met people who haven't even got a GP, so they're kind of off grid almost. Sometimes when I meet people, the most important thing I can do is to be able to put something into their hands, a signpost, and say, if you ring these people, they'll be really happy to hear from you, really happy to help. Or if you go to this place, they'd be really happy to chat. So again, I can't give out a whole service leaflet. Maybe I don't want to give out a whole service leaflet about the council, but I might want to give something that says, this is the number to ring. If you ring there, they'd be really happy to help you. So it feels less overwhelming than a massive website or a big service leaflet. It's accessible for people who might have sight loss, ESOL speakers, neurodiversity, literacy issues. It's very, very simple. It's not overwhelming, and it enables me to kind of sow a seed and say, if you ring, they'd be so happy to hear from you. And there's another example here. We had a counselling service, and often doing this work, I meet people and it becomes really apparent they could benefit from having somebody to talk to about things. And it's not right for me to do that on the street, and I'm not an expert, but I'd say, maybe this is something you might find it useful to talk to somebody about. I'm not the right person, but if you ring here, they'd be really happy to chat to you. So it's this idea of saying what it is on the tin. Would you like to talk to someone in confidence? Yes, that's me. That's what I'd like. This is who I'm going to phone. And my quick case study here, this pub is called the Cock Tavern. It's in an area, Somerstown in Camden, lots and lots of social housing. And this particular pub is sort of beloved of the local older Irish community. Lots of men in there. They're all people who are not engaging with formal services support, never would take part in consultation or come to anything. But they're people who've got, real challenges and issues. And in fact, if they want any help, they speak to Sheila, the barmaid. She is their font of knowledge. They never dream of ringing a helpline or going somewhere. So I was in there doing my outreaching, and Sheila actually invited me to a man in the pub because she knew that he could really benefit from some help. He shared with me he'd got really complex health needs, including alcohol dependency, not in receipt of benefits or any formal support. And hasn't been looking for anything or going, I wonder what can help me. He's just going, it's just the way it is. Because I met him, put that postcard into his hands and just going, do you know, they'd so love to meet you and have a chat. And they can just tell you what's what, so you can find out what there is and you can decide if there's anything there for you. So I'm not talking about services, support. I'm not saying they can do your benefits, they can do your housing. I'm just saying this is the start. If you ring them, they can fill you in on what there is. 2 months later, I went back to that pub and I met the same man, and he said, my benefits have been sorted. He'd got a landline in his flat. He'd got a care line pendant. A taxi card was being arranged for him. And he said, this has changed my life. And he then becomes an informal ambassador, not a formal volunteer. But any person in that pub needs anything, he goes, oh, you need to ring Age UK Camden. They were brilliant. So there's this idea of people then, it's the ripple effect, isn't it? Somebody accesses something, somebody makes a change, they tell other people. So it's more than that, just that one conversation. So a whirlwind tour there around comms. So I'd like to suggest that we take a quick 5-minute comfort break, just so I can get another cup of tea and you can hopefully get one too. And then we'll come back really to focus on the next bit, which is the conversation side of things, asking the right questions to capture insight and how to do that, and then how to do the finding of people. So it's 11:32. So if we come back at let's say 11:40, just to give us all a chance for a comfort break, and then we'll plow on with the next section. Lovely. So see you all 11:40.
Joe,
Hello, yes, hi.
don't be too condescending about your old dad. I'm older than he is.
Right. No, well, he's yes, but he is my enigma, because he'll help everybody, he'll do anything, but he's got real preconceptions about things, which I find interesting given my job. And he's come to things with me, I've taken him to things, but he's still um, got his preconceptions. But
You're not completely free of preconceptions yourself, Joe.
no, absolutely, we all have them, don't we? But I think sometimes we don't always think about what those preconceptions might be. So yes, it's interesting to. There's a lot of psychology around it. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, when I started going to seminars like this, they did an exercise that opened us up to ourselves, and you learned shocking things about yourself.
Yes, I can imagine. So yes, but it's all really interesting, isn't it? That I think anything that encourages reflection is great.
I'll let you get on anyway.
Yes, brilliant. So hopefully everyone is on their way back. So I will start to share my screen again. So we've talked about looked at comms. So now we're going to look at the other side, which is just like our comms has to address barriers and be much more informal, anticipate and answer questions. We're looking at what that now looks like in terms of conversational strategies, because we can do all of this great work, we can get people to come and meet us, and then if we're still in that very formal way of talking about things and sharing things, then again people can disconnect with us. So this is about informal conversational strategies to talk about your offer and also capture insight. So this is just a question. So thinking about outside the kind of the world of your professional work and things, if you end up having a light touch conversation with somebody, so it could be I'm constantly talking to people. If I'm at a bus stop, I'll end up having a chat. I'm in the supermarket. What do those conversations feel like when it's with somebody you don't know, but it is just very light touch? What sorts of things do you chat about? How do you feel when you're having those? Any thoughts from anyone?
Well, I've certainly had a lot of counsellors say that they often get approached when they're walking their dogs and chatted to within the community. I mean, I was sat in a cafe with a counsellor the other day. We were just having a coffee and a chat. We were having a bit of a chat about some of his ambitions with the council, and we were just approached there and then by a local mum talking about parking outside the school. And the councillor did actually say, we are in the middle of a meeting, but she said, oh, can I just tell you, and just threw information at him actually, and her views there and then. And the councillor was great. But I said to him at the end of it, so now she's told you that, what will you do with that information? And I think that's the key to these informal chats that councillors have, because they live where they're counselling. They are the counsellors in their own communities. Those chats happen quite frequently, and it's how that's then used and fed back and collated and developed themes out of. So it's often fast, and the experience I've had, the conversations are quite fast, and I want to give you some information, and it's how the counsellor then does something with that.
Yes, yeah. No, that is really,
especially if it's not part of the events that we talked about. It's great if councils can put on pop-ups or cafes or something where they can create that space, but if it's not in that setting, how is it then used?
Yep. So how to collect data from the conversation?
Yeah, and fed back to the council, because the council meetings are so structured and formal,
yeah,
that they can't just say, you know, in the next parish council or town council meeting, oh, I had a conversation with you know, Mrs. Smith, and this is what she told me. It can't, that's not how the councils are structured. And that's the challenge, I think, that councils have, is when they have these informal conversations.
That's brilliant. So collecting data about informal conversations, and we can absolutely do that as well, Lucy. So brilliant. Any other thoughts about the kind of the informal? So not necessarily in the world of work, but when you just end up chatting to somebody, what is the nature of those conversations like?
I think sometimes people can really want to talk, and it might be that it's not you haven't got the time to devote to that person at that particular time. It might be that it's, you know, like Lucy said, they're grabbing you because they see you, it's a good time for them, but you haven't, it's not the right time for you because you've got to dash off because you've got an appointment or whatever, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. But I think one of the things I sort of really wanted to emphasize within this is the bit like the comms and the pop-up event, it's about making it easy for people and feel it's very informal, giving people autonomy and control. When it then comes to having interactions with people who aren't comfortable in formal settings, then you need to extend that to your conversational approach. So I call this a light touch conversation. So it tends to be non-intrusive. So it's not about kind of advice giving or asking like a formal questionnaire. But the thing that makes it really work to engage those people is it just needs to feel really natural and like an ordinary conversation. So you need to be mindful of what you're trying to communicate and your own degree of formality. So it's that kind of nature sometimes, I think, of more of like a chit chat type conversation. Might chat about the weather, or might chat about, you know, something happening locally, but it doesn't become personal. So when I'm engaging people in this way, I'm not asking people lots of questions. I'm not asking for their name. I'm not asking them who they live with, what benefits and things. It's much further away, and it's this idea of building rapport. Coming back though to this idea of I can imagine counsellors have lots of these conversations, and there is a really easy way of capturing the conversations, who you're meeting, who you're speaking to, what are the common themes coming out, and I'll share that in a moment. But for me, from my work, from my lottery funding, because our focus was around loneliness and isolation, very few people would ever say to me, Jo, I'm lonely, Jo, I'm isolated. But there would be tells, there would be common kind of behaviours. So meeting the person who doesn't want the conversation to end, holding me in conversation, the person sharing with me things like, I don't go anybody, I don't go to things, I'm not a joiner. People talking about nothing happens here, or people don't speak to each other here, let you know about the person's isolation within their community, or people have that specific focus on mind and they want to get off their chest. When I am trying to nudge people towards something and let people know about something's going on, like your pop-up opportunity or something else, then a bit like the outreach friendly comms, I need to dial that back and use very clear, say what it is on the tin transactional language. So if, for instance, you're inviting somebody to your counsellor's surgery, you need to explain what that is and what's going to happen. So we can fall back into using our names for things, our titles for things, but you need to kind of be able to make it clear to people what's going on. So bringing it to life is really important. So it might be, Lucy, I'm making it up and I'm going, oh, on a Wednesday morning in the library between sort of like 10 and 12, oh, you can just drop in, there's lots of information about, you know, what's going on in the borough. You can you know, ask questions, you can share what's good, things that you know about, and just say, oh, there's usually John there, oh, he's a counsellor, but you know, he's just there, he's, you know, there's somebody usually there if you've got questions and things. And then I'll just say, oh yeah, you know, it's very relaxed, very informal, you can just drop in and they're really keen for anybody to go along, because it's just a great way of knowing what people might find useful or things people can share. So there's a way of talking about it that's not formal but can bring it to life and energize people a bit. And I think, as someone was saying earlier on in the session around meeting people, often people the furthest away from doing things need several engagements, several nudges. So I kind of call it, every time I have one of these conversations, I'm sowing a seed. So switching somebody on from going, oh, I don't think about the council at all, to going, oh, or maybe I could do something, maybe I could get involved. Every time you speak, and if your conversation's really positive and the experience is positive, it sets the tone for what comes next. The big sticking point I found is really being aware of your language. So this is just a quick breakdown of formal and informal language. So we can have a great chat, and then these are the things we come out with. I've come out with a feedback, questionnaire, survey, socialize, activities groups, meeting, even the word community. For some people, it will trigger a preconception about who that community is, and it's not me. Maybe I don't feel part of a community. I think you're talking about someone else. So I always try and use very informal alternatives. So chat, ask people what they think about things, talking to people about, spending time listening, neighbours, drop in. So it's just this idea of really being mindful of what language you might use. A few more examples here, I guess. So for me, I'm never going to use the words older people. If my offer is for people age 50 plus, I'm going to say, oh, it's for anybody age 50 plus, or it's for anybody, any residents of wherever it is that you are, rather than, narrowing it down or triggering preconceptions. I'm never going to use the words coffee morning ever again after going out and using those words. I just need to say what it is on the tin people might come to, and describe the atmosphere rather than the social ask. It's informal, relaxed, and easygoing. And we were talking earlier, I think it was Candice, you were asking about, well, how can I use those conversations and very informal questions to start capturing insight? So these are some examples. So for me, I can't say to somebody, are you lonely or isolated? Because they're off. They're not going to talk to me about it. If I speak to people and say, what groups and activities might you like, or services, I'm off because I don't engage with any of those. So these are just some examples of the types of kind of open questions that you can craft, that you can use very informally in a conversation. No clipboards, no piece of paper. It's about us connecting together to understand people's situations. So instead of, are you lonely and isolated, I often say to people, do you feel that you're meeting enough people? Because I could ask that of anyone, and people then generally reflect, and then somebody might go, oh yeah, no, I do such and such, I go so and so, and then you go, well, this person shared a lot now about their connections and how they're spending their time without me having to ask. But the key thing is, it's been up to them what they want to share, that autonomy and control. Would you like more opportunities to meet other local people? If they would, where and how would you like to do that? What would help you to do that? So rather than going, would you like a gardening group? Don't do those things. It's opening out the other way. So it could be, it's asking people about what things they might like to see, what would help them to feel more able to contribute things or participate in things. It could be, it's about a building that's available for people in the community to use, and then instead of kind of starting with here are the activities, going, this space is available, what is fixed, so it's open from 8 till 10, you can book it in this way, these are the things you can do, and then it's, if you'd like to do something, how could we help you to do it? So it's that other approach. This is really useful, I think, for the council, because often people only ever tell you the negative things, and it's really good to ask people about, where are the good places to go, what's good about where you live, because then you capture all of that informal knowledge that you don't know about. And it could be people are running informal activities, or there's groups, or there's good places or spaces, and all of that intel can be really positive. It's a sort of thing you can share with other people, and often it tells you this park is really popular. I can go and meet people in that park because I know lots of people are going there. So it's never a wasted conversation. And do you know your neighbours? Do you find people say hello? Do people chat to each other around here? Automatic insight into a community, somebody's connection to their community, that information about the area as well. And if then people are going, no, we don't know each other, then you've got this sense of, oh, we're going to have this pop-up cafe. We're really, want to invite everyone to come because so many people feel the same. So maybe it's a nice opportunity to meet your neighbours in that relaxed way. I often ask people about the transport network, even though I know the answer might be terrible, but I'm going to find out suddenly where someone goes and how they travel around. And this question is gold dust, especially if you've got someone who's incredibly negative, tells you how great things used to be. What do you miss? What used to be really good? So someone can come up with something and go, oh, if is that something that you'd like to see again? How could we, help you to do that? Or what needs to happen? So you've got a way then of turning that into a positive conversation. And going back to your counsellors, and I can send this separately as an example, but every conversation I had when I was funded by the lottery, I needed to be able to account for. So I developed this template where after I've had a conversation, pull it out of my pocket. Who did I meet? Man, woman, rough age group, ethnicity. And then I would think in advance about what are the things I want to listen out for? What are the things people might mention? So I can tick who's sharing those. So we talk about them as indicators. So your counsellor might then be able to say, look, I've had 20 conversations this week. This is who I met. X number of people, or 50% of people, they were talking to me about this issue. So immediately you've got something that's a bit more evidence-based than just anecdotal. And I'll show you an example of that. But before we do, I just wanted to invite us just to pop back into the Menti, because it's really useful thinking about the people you're not meeting or hearing from. What would you like to know from them? What is the insight, or what they want, what they think? Again, it's a great question to ask because it can help you then to develop those informal conversation questions. So just stop sharing and join you back in the Menti. So here we go. So what would you like to know about from your seldom heard voices? What are the things where you think, what's your gap in your knowledge? Yeah, how would they like to engage? So how does that work? How does it look and feel like for them, for it to be something that they feel comfortable to do? And immediately then you're starting to shape those open questions. So instead of fitting you into this box, I'm being really open, I'm understanding what things need to look. More of the younger person's view, so what they think about things, what we can do to improve things, what would help you to engage. So part of that might be being able to ask and understand why people don't engage. What are their preconceptions? What are the things, where are they filling in the gaps? Because once you know what those things are, those preconceptions are, you can start to circumnavigate those and address them. How can we make things accessible? How would you like us to communicate with you? So again, for me, I might ask a question about, if you were trying to find out information, where would you look? Open question, and then people will tell you. So it could be people are looking in lots of different ways, or if you wanted to find, if you're looking, or what would help you to find information. So again, rather than starting at the end, it's completely open, so you can understand what people do. What do you know what's available in the town or village? So again, you might ask people about what are the good things locally. Where do you like to go? What do you like to do? because then you get to hear those things, and then it might be saying, oh, do you know about these things going on? Is this something that you might do? So it's just kind of finding your way. Is there anything I can help with? So yes, so part of this Menti thing has been focusing on the people that we want to meet, and the barriers to engagement, how we pitch and position our offer, and then what we really want to capture in terms of that insight, because it then means we can respond. So thank you for that. So I'm just going to share with you a quick example of a case study from me using this approach. So we're all really familiar with formal types of engagement. So the questionnaire, the survey, the kind of focus group, the meeting. And we know it's going to capture insight from the people you already know, the people who feel really comfortable, and that format is accessible to. But one of the qualities I've noticed is they're often very data and action driven. So we almost start with the options and we're kind of checking them. So often it kind of perpetuates a lot of what we might do. The characteristics of informal engagement are you're starting to get insight from the people you don't already know. To be successful, it needs to feel much less formal. So conversations, person to person, person-centered. So it's about how things might need to look and feel for the person. And instead of lots of data in that way, you're going to get a lot of insight. So you're going to get understanding from that community, those people, and it then means that you're going to respond to that. So it's response driven. So it gives you new ways of working. So this is just a quick case study to share with you. This was some street outreach with using it as a tool really for social action research. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to have some conversations, but I'm going to use it to capture specific insight on specific subjects and issues. So the council in question, they were developing an older people's strategic needs assessment, and they were doing all kinds of formal consultation, questionnaires through the likes of adult social care, social prescribers, groups and activities. So capturing insight from the people who are already engaged in all those things about what they might like, things, you know, that they would like the council to do. But they realised they were not hearing from the people who were not part of that world, not engaging with those things. So we crafted our questions. They wanted to know about social isolation and loneliness, engagement with formal interventions, and access to information, how to provide it, where are people looking. So provided the training, we went out, and over an hour and a half, we had 38 conversations using street outreach, 52% men, 48% women. As part of those conversations, we met 3 carers, one of whom was a man who had left his wife in the car and he'd ran in and out to get a haircut because it was the only way he can get those personal things done. And he's not accessing any or engaging with any services or support. 8 people expressed an indicator of loneliness. So somebody said, you know, I speak to rather than meet people. All my engagements are surface. 7 people expressed isolation. I never go anywhere. I never see anybody. There were 3 indicators of vulnerability. We met a transgender person who said, I have to be careful. And we had 6 special, really in-depth conversations where people talked a lot about their situation, maybe their health, other issues. A man talked about he'd lived in his home for several months with no heating. And the great thing as well is during the whole research process, we kept putting signposting information into people's hands, the people who didn't know what there was, weren't particularly looking for things, but you could do that. You're spreading the word. So how did that compare? The data we got out of those informal conversations, or street outreach as a tool for social action research, with that very formal consultation. So street outreach, only 24% of people, well, 24% of people were saying, I don't do anything, I don't go anywhere, I don't see anybody. That compared with 7% of people who took part in the formal consultation. Barriers to engagement. 70% of people we engaged talked about a barrier: cost, transport, other issues. 42% of people in their formal consultation didn't believe there were any barriers for anybody at all. Who's engaging with a formal offer or service? Only 10% of people met out on the street. 65% of people through the formal consultation were engaging with one or more activity or service. How do people find information? Out on the street, 37% of people just did not know where to look. And then it was a whole hodgepodge of ways where people found information. Some people would be looking online. A few people might look at a notice board. Other people relied on word of mouth. In the formal survey, only 13% of people did not know where to seek information. And you kind of expect that because you're asking those questions to people who are very connected and part of services and support. But the other great thing around this is by speaking to people where they are, going to where they are and initiating this contact, you get other insights, things that you would never capture through a formal survey. So the council realised, if I go to this market is a really important place for people who are isolated because they come here to get out of the house. If I want to now go out and do some more work with my seldom heard voices, this is the place. I'm coming back here. They realised the people that they wanted to reach, their seldom heard voices, are not hard to find. They're just there. They're just not engaging with us. And also, interestingly, in this market, there was an information stand with lots of things going on. None of the people we spoke to kind of knew about it or visited it because it felt quite formal. You had to go and speak to somebody. There were pop-up banners, there were t-shirts, all sorts of things. And they realised that maybe instead of standing behind a table, they could have those staff and volunteers roaming around with information to share, chatting to people. So it's given them different insight and different ways of responding. So just now quickly to share with you some of the different ways of reaching people. And this is my kind of pinning it all down into a nutshell around resources and the people who are the easiest to find and the hardest to find. So out there in your communities, you've got people not looking for you or not thinking about, oh, I wonder what else the council does. But they could be really receptive to engagement and getting involved in things if only they had your information. So having the right comms, having that outreach friendly comms, and then I need to put it in the places and spaces where people are going to come across and see it. So not reading that notice board, maybe it needs to go up at a bus stop, maybe it needs to go where people walk their dogs. I need to have my information where people are and will come across it. The next group are the people not looking for you, don't know about you, but maybe have a lot of preconceptions and barriers to engaging with the council and your offer. The thing that makes the difference is you. It is having the right comms and having a conversation. So it becomes personal, it's informal, it sets the tone for what people are expecting from the engagement, and also as well gets information into their hands. The people who are the most resource intensive to reach and often the hardest to find are the people not looking for you, barriers and preconceptions, but they're hidden behind their doors. So the people you're not going to meet walking around. So again, having the right comms, but going to where they are and using door knocking. So these are kind of like, there isn't just going to be one approach. You're going to be able to pick and mix what you do. And then in terms of what that looks like in practice, so street outreach is the quickest and easiest thing to do. It sounds really daunting, doesn't it? Going up to somebody on the street and initiating a conversation. But as part of the support I provide as a good practice mentor, I train and support people to do it. Come out and do it with you. And lots of volunteers can do it. And once you've broken the ice and tried it, it's not difficult. You just need to approach it in the right way. It's great because you can go straight to the people who are your seldom heard voices, engage people not looking or thinking about you. Every time you do it, you learn something, you get some insight, you find out about the area, address the barriers to engagement, raise awareness about what's going on, and also you get a snapshot and intel about the people you want to meet. So a couple of really brief examples. This is another library. They are in Cambridgeshire, in a rural area. They've got a great library in an area where there's lots of housing around, but not much kind of footfall and engagement. So they've created their pop-up stepping stone activity, did some training, and even in the rural area, we went out and we had 76 conversations, 49 men, 25 women. We met people of all ages. We didn't ask people, you know, do you visit the library? Have you ever been to a library? This conversation, this was our indicators of what people chose to share with us. So in conversation, people might say, oh yeah, no, I go to that library, I know where it is. 21 of those. 5 people said, oh, not been to the library for ages, and then they talked about the reasons why. But they met 10 people who had never ever visited a library. So that's the very heart of your most seldom heard voices, the people you're not engaging. And that was just going out for an hour, so it's very, very quick. This was the public health team in Dudley. They wanted to invite people to a pop-up, inviting people to pick up and share information about what's happening locally. Again, they're looking at people age 50 plus. So their pop-up was outside Iceland in a little kind of shopping arcade. So during the street outreach, we had a lot of conversations, 55 women, 39 men, 48 expressions of interest in coming to the pop-up, lots of special conversations, people sharing knowledge, lots of indicators of isolation. And if you want to know what happens next, we've got another training session coming up in a few weeks' time with my GPM colleague, Jenny, talking about how to do that co-production, capturing that sort of information in very informal ways in informal environments. But it was a really great way for the council to meet people. Another example, another council wanted to engage people about pension credit last year, because lots of people who could really benefit from pension credit aren't claiming. So street outreach, having this informal pop-up, drop in any time for free tea and coffee. We're not mentioning pension credit, we're saying come and pick up ways to save on your energy costs and how to keep your home warm over winter. So with the benefit, not the vulnerability. 150 people engaged, lots of people, information in their hands. 40 people came to that pop-up event in that market because it's a place where people go. Some people came along and ended up claiming pension credit. So it's that really kind of quick and immediate way. Hi there, Candice. I can see your hands there.
Yeah, I just wondered how you introduce yourself when you're doing sort of street outreach or when you're sort of knocking on doing the door-to-door, because I don't know, do you say, hi, I'm Joe and I'm from blah, 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 which, or how do you sort of initiate the conversation?
Yep.
Because people will want to know, won't they, who you are?
Nope, they don't want to know who I am. I approach people with my comms, with my invitation. And if you think about it, if a stranger comes up to you in the street and says, hello, I'm such and such, what goes through your mind?
Oh, they're trying to sell me something.
Trying to sell me something, yeah. So don't do any of that. I've got my one piece of comms. I don't stand in one place. Community fundraisers, we've all stood outside somewhere, haven't we, trying to catch people's eye. People walk past you. So I walk around, I'm roaming around, I have my piece of paper, go up to somebody and say, oh, really sorry to bother you. Look, I'm not fundraising, I'm not selling anything. I'm just trying to let people know about this. And I have my on. It's just very, very informal, and it's the way of opening the conversation. So again, as part of the training and support, I share with people how to do that really well and to build on that engagement. So it's how we make people feel. So nobody needs to feel that somebody's trying to do something to me or want something from me. Doing the positive thing of I'm not deciding who's interested or not. I'm sharing this opportunity with as many people as I can. So you mentioned door knocking. Again, this is the great way of finding the people who are often hidden behind their communities. And if you're trying to do some engagement, say on a particular housing estate, it's not uncommon to find that there might be politics between residents, there might be antisocial behaviour, there might be lots of reasons why people don't talk to each other and they don't come to things. And door knocking and having this kind of informal pop-up event can be a great way of doing something about this. So I'll pop through this slide, you can read it afterwards, but often what I've really discovered is you can't assume by living in the same place there is a community, because people are really different and people sometimes need permission to talk to each other. So lots of reasons why not to do door knocking. Scams, data protection, no one can tell you who and where the residents are. How can you do it safely for everybody? How can you make it non-intrusive? How can you plan for it and have the resources? So as part of developing this practice, I worked with the police, with trading standards, with housing associations, my council and residents to develop a way of doing it really safely, but for it not to feel intrusive. And this is the basic formula. So this is an example. Big Local and Ageing in Place were both working in a big housing estate in an area of outer Manchester. Very little social infrastructure resources. So they're doing a pop-up cafe in the middle of the housing estate on a tiny little patch of green land. So they've got pop-up gazebo and they've got, you know, flasks, tea cake, that sort of thing. So this goes through people's doors, first of all. So it's an invitation to join us for free tea and coffee at our pop-up cafe. Please pop along and join us. Residents of all ages welcome. And then what you're going for, if you're looking for opportunities to make the most of your free time, information's available about what's happening locally on this estate. We're also keen to link people together who would like to share their interests with others. And that's their primary focus and purpose for Ageing in Place and Big Local. They want to be able to empower residents to do their own thing, but they're just not meeting them. So this is a way of doing that engagement. And then this is the thing that's really important. It lets people know in advance about the door knock. So Margaret and Phil will be in your area door knocking on Wednesday, 31st of July, just to say hello and tell you a bit more about what's on. If you don't wish to be disturbed, please let us know by leaving a message or sending an email. And this is really important because it gives residents the autonomy, the choice or control. They can opt out of your door knock. When you do knock on the door, more people know you're coming and you're going to have more conversations, better engagement response. It builds trust because you're not cold door knocking, and I would never recommend to somebody that they do that. And also it can mitigate risks and help to keep people safe. And again, a couple of case studies here. So I developed part of my practice with Peabody. They were one of the housing associations I worked with. We went together, we shared an invitation to our kind of pop-up event on the housing estate. We knocked on 150 doors, so you don't have to do the whole area or the whole estate in one go. You can go, I'm going to do these streets today, or we're going to do that bit next week. It was during the daytime. We met 65 residents. We met some older men, older women, but lots of younger people and families. So suddenly you find out who is at home during the day. If I want to engage those people, I'm now starting to get that insight about when is the good time. We then had an intergenerational pop-up event. 27 people came. And the key reason we were doing this is finding the people who were hidden and not known to their communities. And one of the people we met was a resident who was 98. Nobody knew she was there. Like lots of people who become hidden, they don't ask for things. They're not kind of raising flags or alarms. They're just going, well, I don't go out now. This is the way it is. So we met this resident, and it turns out she just needed some help to be able to go to things. So we took her along to the pop-up. We went, arranged to knock and take her down. She walked into this room. She came into this room, and people gasped. There were tears. There were people that she'd known for years, and they just lost contact. People had thought she'd passed away because they just didn't hear from her anymore. And she was just suddenly then, by her community, by the other residents, they sort of went, oh my goodness, we've not seen you for, anything now happens on this estate, this lady is there. Somebody opens an envelope, somebody goes to knock for her, or they ring her up. She's having an amazing social life now, and it's just because she's been refound by her community. So it's not always about a formal intervention being an answer. It's just kind of building those connections. So if you are interested in door knocking, really happy to chat to you at another time, but just to reassure you, it's not intrusive. You don't go into people's homes, you don't ask for personal details. We use something called dynamic risk assessment. So there's a whole kind of safety practice and procedure. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, you don't have to just have one approach. You can pick and mix. So Corsham Town Council, they're a small historic town. It's often a destination for other local villagers. There's a lot of low footfall, limited bus service, and they're trying to do kind of some age-friendly community work. So we've done different things. We've got the pop-up in the library, we've done some street outreaching, and we've also done some door knocking in 2 sheltered housing communities, a town and a rural setting. As a result of doing that door knocking, 11 people ended up going to their age-friendly event. And because she'd spoken to people, you realise what the barrier was. It was access to transport and low culture of participation because of COVID. People still weren't mixing. That was identified during the door knock, and age-friendly Corsham just provided some taxis so people could go. So it's the sort of thing that you wouldn't know unless you were doing that kind of direct engagement work. So the last thing really quickly to share is the idea of finding people and making the most of your community assets. So we've all got formal community assets. They're going to be that group of lovely people I can go and speak to, that activity, people who are already part of a service or have an existing and formal relationship with the people that you want to reach. Sometimes it's a space with a recognised service or identity. So it could be something like a community centre or citizens' advice. But with all of this kind of formal community asset, it's going to meet and engage the people who are comfortable within that formal setting. So for outreach purposes, your seldom heard voices, you might use and do some of the formal community asset work, absolutely valuable. But the work of going out to the people you don't know, you need to think about where are they. Your informal community assets are the spaces and places visited by the people that you want to reach on an informal basis, where people walk their dogs, where people shop, where people wander around, how and where people live. It could be the hairdressers, it could be the post office, it could be the pub, it could be the cafe that's really friendly and cheap and affordable and lots of people go. It could also be those neutral spaces, not linked to a specific cause group or demographic. You could use that for a pop-up event. And this is going to enable you to meet the people who are less likely to be part of those formal services. So I often think about those as the people no one knows. So this is just really visual. So I've got my outreach friendly comms. Even if I do nothing else, I can get this put up in those bumping spaces and places where people go. So I'm going to come across it. Also thinking about your pop-up event, creating those opportunities to bring people together in neutral spaces. It can help you to find those and identify those as well. And these, again, this is part of something we call community asset mapping. So these are the questions that I would ask myself to start doing this. So who are the people, going back to who are the people that I want to meet and engage, but where are they? Where do they visit, pass around, pass through, move around in their community? These are the places I can find people. So going back to that council and pension credit, it was their market. On a market day, people travel in and come here. So this is where I need to go. Think about opportunities to engage people in housing settings and how you can reach them. So it could be you've got sheltered housing, maybe you've got council housing, maybe you've got housing associations. Maybe, as I often work in, there'll be a whole area with lots of bungalows, so likely to be occupied by perhaps older people I might want to meet. Or there might be areas where I've worked where lots of people on low incomes, it's going to be lots of flats and bedsits. So I just really need to think about where people live and how I can reach them. At the very least, if I've got good comms, I could letter drop that. I could put it up outside where people live. So it's really kind of thinking around that. The next option is who are the people who come into contact informally with the people I want to reach. So it's not going to be a formal service or support, but it could be the hairdresser. It could be in the pub, like my men in the Cock Tavern. I'm going to speak to Sheila, the barmaid. She's absolutely an amazing informal network, informal asset, because if I've chatted to her and she knows about what I'm doing and how I can help, she can make those connections. Could be you're trying to engage families. Maybe I need to go at the school gates. Maybe I need to speak to parents. Sorry to bother you, not fundraising or selling anything, just trying to let people know about this. It might be for you. You might know somebody. Can you pass it on? In rural areas where people might rely on taxis, can you get it in the back of the taxi? So it's just really thinking a bit outside of the box about using your comms and your ways of connecting to and speaking to those people. So we're just about out of time, but those questions prompting you to think about where do people move around? Where do people live? What are my opportunities to get information to them? And then thinking about who are the people who know the people I want to meet. This will be on your Menti. So again, it's a way of prompting you to reflect. I guess really there's no secret science around it apart from needing to go to where people are and think about how they move around and engage people on their own terms. So it's just being really mindful of all of those things. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen there and just see if anyone has any questions. And while you're having a think, it was somebody earlier, I think it was you, Helen, you were asking about when to do things. When are the best times, because it's different for everybody. And I think what I would say to that, Helen, is it might not be realistic to engage everybody all at once. But if you were thinking, I want to meet families, I could go and do some street outreach. I could go and have some conversations. Might be able to go and do some SOSAR. So I can target when I do it. Things like door knocking. Again, you can target. You can decide how and when you're going to do things, depending on who you want to meet. And there's no shortcut. Fortunately, there isn't going to be one magic time slot, which is a bit annoying, isn't it? But
I've got some ideas that I may work on now, so thank you for that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Helen. Any other questions for anybody?
No, just thank you so much, Jo. It's been really, really useful, and hopefully everyone's benefited from it. But if anybody needs more information, they can contact myself or you directly. And we have recorded this session, so if anybody wants to share it with fellow councillors from their council, that'd be really, that'd be fine to do. I'll send out a message to say where that can be found.
Fantastic. And just for the purposes of the recording, just to plug what happens next really in terms of support. So the ways we can help, we can come and help you to do the community asset map. So really focusing on who are those people we want to meet and where can I find them? And we can support you with that by doing some prior research from like an outreach and an engagement focus to mean that you can go away then with your strategy about who are the people I want to meet and engage, where are they, how can I do that work, how can I prioritise. Lots of help and support as well from me around outreach friendly comms. Send anything my way if you're working on something and you just want some instant feedback. If you're interested in door knocking or street outreach or SOSAR, capturing insight in more formal ways, capturing conversation data, please get in touch. And this is just a plug for our next session. It's on Thursday, the 24th of July, and it's about creating a shared understanding and vision of community health and well-being. This is really built on the principles of co-production from the heart. So it's using a whole range of involvement methods and principles, including some of those less formal co-production techniques to capture insight and enable people to participate in ways that might feel a bit less formal. And also as well, we have got our good practice mentor team. You can find out and connect with us about all of the ways that we help and support people. So thank you very much, and thank you for letting me do my quick plug there.
Thank you so much, Jo.